What do you do when life knocks the wind out of you, when prayers seem unanswered, and when everything you believed would work suddenly falls apart? That's the moment you discover whether you had faith or just feelings. Stay with me, because today I'm going to show you why keeping your faith is the difference between breaking down and breaking through. Faith outlasts feelings because feelings are fragile, unpredictable, and temporary. Feelings can change with the weather, with the mood, with one phone call, with one disappointment, with one unexpected shift in the plan. You can wake up in the morning feeling powerful and by the afternoon feel crushed under the weight of life's circumstances. You can be excited about your future on Monday and discouraged by Wednesday. That is the nature of emotions. They rise and they fall. They come and they go. They are driven by what you see, what you hear, and what you experience. But faith is not tied to what is seen. It is not chained to circumstances. It is not controlled by the highs and lows of life. Faith is the substance that anchors you when your feelings try to drift you into despair. Faith is what whispers, "Keep going," when everything inside of you screams, "Quit." When you live by feelings, you are a victim of the moment. If people treat you right, you feel loved. If they treat you wrong, you feel rejected. If doors open, you feel favored. If doors close, you feel abandoned. Feelings will have you on an emotional roller coaster, up one day and down the next, never steady, never consistent, never sure. But when you live by faith, you can be rejected and still know you are chosen. You can face closed doors and still believe another one will open. You can be in a storm and still believe you will make it to the other side. Faith steadies you when your emotions betray you. Faith holds you when your feelings let you down. Feelings are born from what you experience, but faith is born from what you believe. That is why people who live by feelings are often restless, unstable, and easily broken. They're trying to build a life on shifting sand, and when the storm comes, everything collapses. But people who live by faith build on rock. The winds may blow, the rain may fall, the storm may rage, but the foundation stands because it is not built on emotion. It is built on conviction. And conviction doesn't dissolve when circumstances change. Conviction doesn't retreat when trouble arises. Conviction says, I may not feel it, but I know it. I may not see it, but I believe it. I may not understand it, but I trust it. There will be days when you don't feel strong enough to keep moving forward. There will be moments when you don't feel like praying, don't feel like trying, don't feel like believing anymore. That's when faith steps in to carry you. Faith is not about how you feel in the moment. It is about what you choose to stand on, even when your emotions are falling apart. Faith says, I will believe even when I am trembling. I will stand even when my knees are shaking. I will keep trusting even when my tears won't stop. And in those moments, you begin to see that faith has a power feelings could never give you. Faith doesn't just make you feel better. Faith makes you stronger. Faith doesn't just give you comfort. Faith gives you courage. Your feelings can tell you that you're losing when faith says you're just being tested. Your feelings can tell you that you're alone when faith says you're never forsaken. Your feelings can tell you that you're finished when faith says you've only just begun. That's why you cannot afford to let your feelings rule your decisions. If you listen to your feelings, you will stop too soon. If you listen to your feelings, you will walk away right before the breakthrough. If you listen to your feelings, you will convince yourself that the valley you're in is permanent, when in truth it's only a passageway. But if you listen to faith, you will keep walking, you will keep pressing, you will keep moving, because faith outlasts the momentary chaos of your emotions. Think about how many people gave up on their dreams, not because they didn't have the talent, not because they didn't have the opportunity, but because they didn't feel like they were enough. Think about how many families were torn apart, not because they couldn't work it out, but because someone felt too tired to try again. Feelings rob you of your future when you let them be the driver of your life. Faith, on the other hand, pushes you into tomorrow. Faith keeps you moving when feelings would have you stuck. Faith points you to the bigger picture when your emotions are fixated on the temporary pain. Faith is what keeps you calm when the storm is raging. Faith is what keeps you focused when the distractions are screaming. Faith is what keeps you anchored when the waves are trying to toss you around. Your emotions will always try to drag you into the noise of the moment. But faith pulls you into the silence of certainty. Faith pulls you into the place where you know, beyond what you feel, that something greater is working on your behalf. Faith is not blind. It simply sees beyond what your emotions allow you to see. Every test you face in life is not there to destroy you. It is there to develop you. The problem is when you're in the middle of the test, it rarely feels like training. It feels like punishment. It feels like rejection. It feels like failure. It feels like you are losing when in truth you are learning. A test exposes what you know, what you believe, and what you are made of. Without the test, you would never know the strength you carry. Without the test, you would never know the wisdom you've gained. Without the test, you would never be prepared for the places you are destined to go. That's why you cannot despise the test. The very thing you are resenting today may be the very thing that is shaping you for tomorrow. The fire that feels like it is burning you is actually purifying you. The weight that feels like it is crushing you is actually building your endurance. The trial that feels like it is tearing you down is actually equipping you to stand taller than you ever have before. Think of how an athlete prepares for the championship. They don't prepare by sitting on the couch, waiting for the big day to arrive. They prepare by running until their lungs burn, by lifting until their muscles ache, by pushing until their body screams to stop. And all of that pain, all of that resistance, all of that exhaustion is training. The coach isn't punishing them when he makes them run one more lap. The trainer isn't cruel when he makes them push one more set. Every drop of sweat is producing something. Every moment of pain is producing something. Every stretch beyond what feels comfortable is producing something. And when the championship finally comes, the athlete who endured the training is ready to step into victory. That is what life does with you. The hardships, the disappointments, the betrayals, the delays, the obstacles, these are not punishments. They are training sessions. They are not there to weaken you. They are designed to prepare you. The problem is we often misinterpret the test. We think because something is hard, it must be a sign that we are failing. We think because we are hurting, it must mean we are losing. We think because the path is rough, it must mean we are going the wrong way. But sometimes the very fact that it is hard is proof that you are on the right path. Diamonds are not formed in comfort, they are formed under pressure. Gold is not purified in cool waters, it is refined in fire. Muscles are not built in rest, they are built in resistance. And your faith, your character, your vision, your strength, they are not built in easy times, they are built in the tests of life. When you are being tested, it is easy to complain. It is easy to ask why. It is easy to wish for an escape. But if you can shift your perspective, you will begin to see the test as training. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You will begin to ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of saying, I can't take this anymore, you will begin to say, this is preparing me for more. Instead of crying over what you've lost, you will begin to recognize what you've gained. The test isn't meant to kill you. It is meant to reveal the warrior inside of you. The test isn't meant to break you. It is meant to break the weakness off of you so that the strength in you can rise. Some of the very things you are crying about now will one day be the stories you tell of how you became who you are. The nights you thought you would never survive will be the nights you look back on as the moments your spirit was forged. The times you thought you were forgotten will be the very times you realize you were being hidden for preparation. The days you felt weakest will be the days you realize you were actually being strengthened. Tests are never comfortable, but they are always purposeful. Life does not waste pain. Every tear, every burden, every sleepless night is shaping you into someone who can handle what is coming next. If you quit in the test, you forfeit the training. If you walk away when it gets hard, you walk away from the very lessons that were designed to promote you. Just as a student cannot graduate without passing the exam, you cannot step into your destiny without enduring the test. You cannot bypass the process and still expect to be prepared for the promise. That's why so many people fail when opportunity comes. They wanted the stage without the struggle, the spotlight without the sacrifice, the reward without the resistance. But if you have been through the test, if you have endured the long nights, if you have fought through the silent seasons, if you have held on when it would have been easier to let go, then when the opportunity arrives, you will not only step into it, you will be able to sustain it. Life will test you in your patience, in your relationships, in your finances, in your faith. Life will test you through people who walk away, through doors that slam shut, through dreams that seem delayed. And every time the test is training, every time the resistance is producing strength, every time the hardship is developing endurance, you are not being overlooked, you are being prepared, you are not being punished, you are being equipped, you are not being defeated, you are being trained to handle a victory so great that if it came too soon, it would crush you. Faith has a vision that stretches beyond the moment. Faith does not stop where your eyes stop. Faith does not surrender to what the present looks like. Faith peers through the fog of uncertainty, through the shadows of disappointment, through the walls of impossibility, and sees a future that your natural sight cannot perceive. That is why people who walk by sight are often defeated before they even begin. They see only the obstacle in front of them. They see only the pain they are in. They see only the problem that looms over their heads. But those who walk by faith are able to stand in the same storm, face the same mountain, endure the same pain, and yet believe that there is something greater on the other side. Faith is the ability to declare, this is not the end. This is not all there is. This is not the whole story. There is more to come, and I choose to believe it even when I cannot see it. The now will always try to convince you that this is all you will ever have, all you will ever be, all you will ever know. The now can feel like a prison, locking you into your current circumstances, chaining you to your present pain, convincing you that there is no escape, no breakthrough, no possibility beyond what you are facing today. But faith breaks the bars of the now. Faith reminds you that you are not defined by your current condition. Faith whispers that the valley you are walking through is not permanent. Faith points you beyond the night and tells you that morning is coming. Faith lifts your eyes from the dirt beneath your feet to the horizon ahead, showing you that where you are is not where you will stay. Every person who has ever accomplished anything extraordinary had to believe beyond the now. The entrepreneur who built the company had to believe when the bank account was empty. The parent who raised the family had to believe when the cupboards were bare. The leader who changed the world had to believe when nobody else saw the vision. The now may have looked barren, the now may have looked hopeless, the now may have looked impossible, but faith had eyes for tomorrow. Faith had eyes for the harvest when all that could be seen was dry ground. Faith had eyes for healing when all that could be felt was pain. Faith had eyes for restoration when all that was visible was brokenness. The danger of living only in the now is that you become a prisoner of your feelings and circumstances. When the now is good, you feel good. When the now is bad, you feel hopeless. When the now is uncertain, you feel lost. But when you walk in faith, you are not ruled by the fluctuation of the moment. You can be in a pit and still see yourself in a palace. You can be overlooked and still see yourself being promoted. You can be wounded and still see yourself healed. You can be struggling and still see yourself victorious. Faith gives you the courage to look beyond your present condition and claim a future reality. Faith is not denial. It does not pretend that the now does not exist. Faith acknowledges the pain, acknowledges the struggle, acknowledges the weight of the moment, but it refuses to be limited by it. Faith is the refusal to let the present moment have the final word. Faith looks at the now and says, you are real, but you are not permanent. You are present, but you are not eternal. You may be strong, but you will not last. Faith sees that storms pass, that seasons change, that doors open, that chains break. Faith knows that the same God who brought you this far will not abandon you in the middle of the journey. Some of the most powerful breakthroughs in life happen because someone dared to see beyond the now. They refused to let their current struggle dictate their future expectation. They refused to let their pain rob them of their hope. They refused to let the darkness convince them that the sun would not rise again. Faith gives you the power to speak life while surrounded by death. Faith gives you the power to declare victory while standing in the middle of the battle. Faith gives you the power to sow seeds of hope in barren soil because you believe that one day the ground will break forth with fruit. When you are trapped in the now, it feels like time is standing still, like the situation will never change. The waiting feels endless, the night feels eternal, the struggle feels permanent. But faith knows that the now is only a snapshot in the story of your life. Faith knows that what you are facing today will one day be behind you. Faith knows that the pain you are enduring will one day become the testimony you share. Faith knows that the season you are in is just that, a season. And seasons do not last forever. They shift, they change, they transition. The winter may be long, but spring always comes. The night may be dark, but the morning always rises. The now may be heavy, but faith sees the breakthrough that is waiting just beyond it. Faith requires imagination. It requires vision. It requires the courage to believe in what your natural eyes cannot yet see. It is easy to be discouraged when all you can see is the now. It is easy to lose heart when all you can focus on is the pain of the moment. But if you dare to lift your eyes higher, if you dare to look beyond the immediate, if you dare to believe that the story is still being written, you will find strength that your circumstances cannot give you. Faith becomes the bridge between where you are and where you are going. Faith becomes the light that shines through the darkness of the now and illuminates the hope of tomorrow. Faith becomes the voice that speaks louder than the chaos of the present and declares that a greater chapter is still ahead. There comes a point in every journey where strength runs low, not because you are weak, not because you lack vision, not because you don't care, but because you have been fighting, pushing, climbing, and believing for so long that weariness sets in. Tiredness is the natural weight of carrying heavy loads for an extended period of time. It is the echo of battles fought, of nights spent awake wrestling with uncertainty, of days spent holding on when everything inside of you wanted to let go. And if you are not careful, tiredness will trick you into believing that because you are exhausted, it means you are finished. But being tired does not mean you are done. Being tired does not mean you have failed. Being tired simply means you are human, and every human who has ever reached greatness has had to learn how to keep holding on when tiredness pressed down on them. When you're tired, the temptation to quit becomes stronger than ever. The mind begins whispering that you have done enough, that it isn't worth it anymore, that the dream isn't working, that the breakthrough isn't coming. The weight feels heavier, the journey feels longer, the goal feels further away. And yet it is often in those exact moments when you are bone weary, when you feel like you cannot take another step, that you are closest to the breakthrough. The test of endurance is not when you are fresh and strong at the starting line. It is when you are staggering and weary near the finish. Anyone can run when the adrenaline is pumping. Anyone can push when the excitement is fresh. Anyone can fight when the energy is flowing. But true strength, true faith, true greatness is revealed when you continue pressing forward while tired, when you continue believing while empty, when you continue holding on while everything in you is begging to let go. Tiredness is dangerous not because it drains your body, but because it clouds your vision. When you are tired, you don't see clearly. You misjudge where you are. You overestimate how far you have left to go. You underestimate how much you have already endured. Fatigue makes you forget the progress you've already made, the battles you've already won, the strength you've already proven. Tiredness blinds you to the truth that you are closer than you think. It convinces you to give up inches away from the finish line. That is why you must learn to fight through the fog of exhaustion and hold on even when you are too tired to see the whole picture. There are seasons when your energy runs low, but the key is to adjust your pace without abandoning your race. You may not run as fast as you once did. You may not carry as much as you once could. You may not shine as brightly as you once felt. But if you can just keep holding on, even in a tired state, you will make it through. Sometimes holding on doesn't look like sprinting, it looks like crawling. Sometimes it doesn't look like shouting, it looks like whispering a prayer through tears. Sometimes it doesn't look like standing tall, it looks like clinging to hope with trembling hands. But no matter how it looks, the power is in the persistence, the victory is in the refusal to let go. Think about how many people gave up, not because they were defeated, but because they were tired. They walked away from dreams that were about to bloom. They abandoned assignments that were about to bear fruit. They quit paths that were about to break open with opportunity. They misinterpreted their exhaustion as a signal that it was over, when in reality, it was the final stretch before the breakthrough. If you can just hold on through the tiredness, you will see what others never saw because they let go too soon. You will walk into a reward that others missed because they mistook exhaustion for failure. Your tiredness is not a sign that you are weak. It is evidence that you have been strong for a long time. It is evidence that you have carried weight others dropped, that you have fought battles others avoided, that you have pressed through storms that would have broken someone else. Being tired means you are in the arena. Being tired means you are engaged in the fight. Being tired means you are giving everything you have. And if you have come this far with weariness, imagine how much further you can go if you simply hold on a little longer. There are times when holding on tired looks like leaning on something greater than yourself. You may not have the strength to carry it alone, but you were never meant to. You can lean on your faith, lean on your vision, lean on the belief that what you are enduring is not in vain. You can lean on the promise that tired seasons do not last forever. You can lean on the assurance that the very act of holding on while weary is building endurance inside of you that nothing else could build. Every time you hold on while tired, your capacity expands. Every time you push through while weary, your resilience deepens. Every time you refuse to quit while empty, your character strengthens in ways that success could never teach you. Tiredness will tempt you to settle. It will tell you to lower your standards, to shrink your dreams, to accept less than you know you deserve. But holding on when you are tired means refusing to let exhaustion dictate your destiny. It means reminding yourself that your temporary fatigue is no match for your eternal calling. It means choosing to stay the course, not because it is easy, not because you feel strong, but because you believe there is something greater waiting beyond this season of weariness. Faith has a magnetic power. It draws opportunities, opens doors, and pulls possibilities toward you that logic cannot explain. When faith is present, breakthroughs begin to gravitate in your direction. Faith is not just a belief locked away in your mind. It is a force that shapes the atmosphere around you. It speaks into the unseen and calls it into reality. It takes what seems distant and pulls it closer. It takes what seems impossible and makes it attainable. That is why people of faith often see extraordinary things happen, not because they had every resource, not because they had every connection, not because they had the perfect plan, but because their faith became the magnet that attracted what they needed at just the right time. Faith attracts breakthroughs because it refuses to accept defeat as the final word. A person with faith looks at closed doors and believes another one will open. They look at rejection and believe redirection is happening. They look at lack and believe provision is on the way. When others stop searching because the situation looks hopeless, the one who holds on to faith keeps looking, keeps expecting, keeps believing, and because they refuse to let go, breakthroughs begin to manifest. The breakthrough is not always sudden, it is not always dramatic, but it comes to those who carry faith in the dark while waiting for the light. Faith is the language of possibility. It speaks to the mountain and commands it to move. It speaks to the storm and declares peace. It speaks to the dry bones and calls them to life. The reason faith attracts breakthroughs is because it does not conform to what is, it declares what can be. Faith does not sit in silence while problems shout. It speaks louder, declaring that the problem will not prevail. Faith does not bow down to limitations. It dares to stretch beyond them. And when faith speaks, the atmosphere shifts. Doors that were bolted shut begin to tremble. Chains that seemed unbreakable begin to loosen. Situations that seemed irreversible begin to turn around. There is something powerful about expectation. When you expect nothing, nothing shows up. But when you expect something, when you stand with anticipation, when you carry faith that believes today could be the day, you create a space for breakthrough to enter. Faith attracts breakthroughs because it sets the stage for them. A farmer does not plant seeds expecting nothing to happen. He plants with the expectation of harvest. Faith is the seed that guarantees there will be a harvest. The soil may be dry, the rain may be delayed, the growth may take time, but the seed of faith has already attracted the future fruit. Faith changes the way you walk. It changes the way you talk. It changes the way you think. When you walk in faith, you walk like a person who knows something is on the horizon. Even if you are in a valley, you move with the conviction that the mountaintop is ahead. Even if you are broke, you carry yourself like abundance is coming. Even if you are sick, you declare health is on the way. Faith attracts breakthroughs because it shifts your posture to align with the reality you are believing for. Opportunities come to those who act like they are ready for them. Doors open for those who walk like they are meant to step through them. Miracles appear for those who live in expectation of them. Faith is not passive. It is active. It is not sitting back and wishing. It is standing up and believing. It is not waiting with folded arms. It is preparing for what has been promised. People of faith build the ark before the rain. They dig the ditches before the water flows. They set the table before the guests arrive. And because they prepare in faith, the breakthrough comes, the rain falls, the water fills, the guests show up. Faith attracts breakthroughs because it proves you are ready to handle what is coming. It shows you are not waiting for evidence to believe. You are believing before the evidence, and that belief pulls the evidence toward you. Think about the times in your life when you were right on the edge of quitting, and something shifted just in time. That shift wasn't coincidence, it was the response to faith that refused to let go. Breakthroughs rarely come to people who stop. They come to those who hold on, who keep pressing, who keep trusting even when it looks foolish. Faith will make you look foolish in the eyes of people who only believe in what they can see. But those same people who mock your faith will one day witness your breakthrough and wonder how it happened. They will see the doors open, the opportunities arise, the healing manifest, and they will call it luck. But you will know it wasn't luck. It was faith attracting what you never could have reached on your own. Faith attracts breakthroughs because it aligns you with divine timing. There are things in life that cannot be forced, that cannot be manipulated, that cannot be bought. They can only be received by faith. There are moments when everything lines up perfectly, when provision meets vision, when opportunity meets preparation, when destiny meets obedience. Those moments are not accidents. They are the result of faith pulling breakthrough into alignment with your life. You cannot explain it logically. You cannot map it mathematically, but you know in your heart that your faith made it happen. When you live by faith, you stop chasing things and start attracting them. You stop begging for doors to open and start walking until they swing wide. You stop worrying about how it will happen and start trusting that it will happen. Faith attracts breakthroughs because it positions you to receive what has already been set aside for you. Faith has a way of turning ordinary people into forces that cannot be contained. When you walk in faith, you may face obstacles, you may endure setbacks, you may even fall down, but you will not stay down. Faith makes you unstoppable because it gives you the resilience to rise again and again, no matter how many times life knocks you down. Faith gives you a power that is not tied to your strength alone. It draws from something greater, something higher, something unshakable. When others give up, faith keeps you pressing forward. When others surrender, faith keeps you fighting. When others let go, faith makes you hold tighter. You are unstoppable, not because the opposition is weak, but because your conviction is stronger than their resistance. And unstoppable does not mean you won't face delays. It does not mean you won't encounter battles. It does not mean you won't cry, struggle, or feel pain. Being unstoppable means that none of those things will have the final word. It means that though the storm comes, it cannot sweep you away. It means that though enemies rise against you, they cannot overthrow you. It means that though fear tries to paralyze you, it cannot hold you captive. Faith makes you unstoppable because it keeps you moving even when everything in your environment tells you to stop. It whispers to your soul that there is more ahead, that the story isn't finished, that your destiny is bigger than your difficulty. Faith takes the word impossible and strips it of its power. To the natural eye, some things look too high to climb, too wide to cross, too heavy to lift. But faith sees a way where there is no way. Faith looks at the wall and sees it falling. Faith looks at the Red Sea and sees it parting. Faith looks at the giant and sees him defeated. That is why people of faith become unstoppable. They refuse to be intimidated by the size of the challenge. The challenge may look massive, but faith reminds them that nothing is greater than the one who strengthens them. The mountain may tower overhead, but faith commands it to move. The odds may be stacked against them, but faith declares that the odds do not determine the outcome. When you carry faith, you stop waiting for conditions to be perfect before you move. People who live by sight are always waiting for everything to line up, for the right resources, for the right connections, for the right timing. But faith moves before the evidence appears. Faith acts on conviction, not on comfort. Faith moves when the ground still looks dry, when the door still looks closed, when the future still looks uncertain. And because faith moves, things begin to shift. Resources appear, opportunities arise, strength is renewed. What others call luck is often the byproduct of faith that refused to sit still. Faith makes you unstoppable because it keeps you in motion when others are frozen in fear. Opposition is not a sign you are losing. It is a sign you are carrying something worth fighting for. When you begin to move in faith, resistance will rise. Doors may slam shut. People may doubt you. Circumstances may grow tougher. But unstoppable faith does not crumble under opposition. It grows stronger. Resistance becomes fuel. Criticism becomes motivation. Obstacles become stepping stones. Every force that tries to stop you ends up pushing you closer to your breakthrough. Faith turns your enemies into unwitting allies because in their attempt to stop you, they end up proving your strength. Unstoppable faith does not mean you never stumble. It means you refuse to stay down. Life may hit you with failure, with heartbreak, with betrayal, with disappointment. Faith allows you to absorb the blow, rise back up, and keep pressing forward. You become like a seed buried in the ground, pressed down, covered up, seemingly finished. But faith makes you rise again stronger, fuller, greater than before. Faith makes you unstoppable because it transforms your setbacks into comebacks, your scars into stories, your battles into testimonies. What was meant to bury you becomes the very soil that produces new growth in you. Faith makes you unstoppable because it shifts your focus from the problem to the promise. When you lock your eyes on the problem, you feel small, you feel powerless, you feel overwhelmed. But when you lock your eyes on the promise, you feel empowered, you feel strengthened, you feel determined. The promise reminds you that the struggle is temporary, that the fight is worth it, that the pain is producing something greater. People who walk in faith are unstoppable because they refuse to be distracted by the temporary noise of the problem. They are anchored in the eternal power of the promise. Unstoppable faith has an atmosphere to it. It intimidates fear, it silences doubt, it commands respect. When you walk into a room carrying faith, people sense it. They may not be able to explain it, but they feel the unshakable conviction in you. Faith makes you unstoppable because it refuses to negotiate with defeat. It does not entertain thoughts of quitting. It does not bow down to intimidation. It does not crumble under pressure. Faith says, even if I have to crawl, I will keep moving. Even if I have to cry, I will keep pressing. Even if I have to fight with trembling hands, I will keep swinging. And it is that relentless persistence that makes breakthroughs inevitable. Your future is not built on your talent alone, not secured by your connections, not guaranteed by your education or your resources. Your future is unlocked by your faith. Every dream, every promise, every vision of tomorrow requires the currency of faith to be realized. Faith is the bridge between where you are and where you are going. Without it, you remain trapped in the limitations of today. With it, you step into the possibilities of tomorrow. Your future demands your faith because the road ahead will always be bigger than the strength you have right now. The doors you are meant to walk through will always require you to believe before you see. The victories you are destined to claim will always demand that you fight in faith before you ever taste triumph. The reason so many people never reach the future they dream of is not because the future was denied to them, but because they never had the faith to step into it. Fear held them back. Doubt chained them down. Circumstances discouraged them. They allowed what they saw in the present to blind them from what was possible in the future. They wanted certainty before movement, proof before action, results before belief. But the future does not respond to hesitation. It responds to faith. The future belongs to those who are bold enough to say, I don't see it yet, I don't have it yet, I don't feel it yet, but I believe it is waiting for me. Every destiny has obstacles that stand in the way. Your future will not simply roll out a red carpet for you. There will be resistance, delays, battles, and detours. That is why your faith is not optional, it is essential. Without faith, the obstacles will discourage you. Without faith, the waiting will break you. Without faith, the setbacks will convince you to turn back. But with faith, you keep moving through the valley. With faith, you endure the wilderness. With faith, you press forward in the desert. Your future demands your faith because without it, you will surrender too soon. Without it, you will miss the promise on the other side of the process. Faith is the fuel that keeps your vision alive when everything around you looks opposite of what you are believing for. The future will demand that you look beyond the statistics, beyond the critics, beyond the limitations that surround you. It will demand that you silence the voices that say it cannot be done and tune into the voice that whispers, with faith, all things are possible. It will demand that you keep showing up when nothing is changing, keep sowing when the soil looks barren, keep believing when the evidence is absent. Your future is waiting on your faith to hold steady in the face of contradiction. The truth is, your future does not care how talented you are if you don't have the faith to use it. Your future does not care how big your dream is if you don't have the faith to pursue it. Your future does not care how many opportunities are placed in front of you if you don't have the faith to step through them. Faith is the activator of potential. It turns opportunities into realities. It turns dreams into testimonies. It turns visions into victories. Without faith, your future will remain locked in the realm of what could have been, but with faith, your future becomes what will be. The future will test your patience, and only faith can keep you from giving up in the waiting. The future will test your resilience, and only faith can keep you standing when the winds of adversity blow. The future will test your trust, and only faith can keep you anchored when the waters rise. That is why your future demands your faith. It is the only force strong enough to carry you through the process required to get there. If you give up your faith, you give up your future. If you let go of your faith, you let go of the very thing that pulls tomorrow into today. When you think about your future, you cannot only calculate what you see right now, you cannot only evaluate your present resources, your present conditions, your present environment. If you only measure your future by what you see today, you will shrink your vision down to the level of your limitations. Faith demands that you expand your sight, that you stretch your imagination, that you believe for more than what you currently hold. Faith lifts your eyes from the present lack and points them to future abundance. Faith pulls your gaze off of the current battle and directs it to the coming victory. Faith demands that you walk by what you know in your spirit rather than what you see in your circumstances. Your future is too important to be governed by fear. Your calling is too significant to be stifled by doubt. Your destiny is too great to be surrendered to the uncertainty of the moment. That is why you must protect your faith with everything you have. You must feed it daily, strengthen it constantly, guard it fiercely, because if your faith dies, your future fades. But if your faith stays alive, your future will continue to unfold. No matter how far the dream seems, no matter how delayed the promise feels, no matter how heavy the waiting grows, your faith is the key that keeps the door to your future unlocked.